President Trump and Elon Musk have been on the outs for a little while. Just haven't been getting along. Nobody really knows why. However, they did reconnect at Charlie Kirk's funeral. What they said, we don't know because there's no sound. It's behind glass and the shot is from far away. I did take a couple of different angles and put them together for you so you get a better idea what's happening. But by the time we get finished with this, you're going to know exactly what's going on from a body language and behavior perspective. So let's take a look. There's an empty seat next to President Trump. He's talking to Dana White. Elon Musk sees the open seat and comes in to sit down. When President Trump sees him, he's a little bit surprised, but he immediately goes in for the handshake. This lets us know he's open to getting that relationship fixed. And he probably misses Elon because they hung around so much and got along so well. So as an opening, this is a pretty good sign that this relationship has a chance to be fixed or mended. When the handshake is over, President Trump immediately points over to Dana White. And I'm sure it was something like, "You remember Elon," something like that. They say hello and shake hands, and President Trump gives Elon a little pat on the knee, like, "Hey man, it's good to see you." It's one of those things guys do. And at the same time, it's one of those things fathers do to their sons. Now, Elon's father, I don't think they got along very well, so he may, in a way, see President Trump as a father figure. And since he's much younger than President Trump, I'm sure President Trump sees him as a son-type figure. Then Elon goes immediately to steepling, and he does that little diamond thing that President Trump does all the time. So automatically, right out of the gate, they're mirroring each other. If you'll remember, that's what happens when people like each other a lot or respect each other a lot. They'll mirror the other one's behavior. And they'll also start matching each other, which means they'll start using the same words or vernacular. They'll start using phrases the other one uses. That way they can get that flow going and helps them get along better. People like them, and they like people that look like them and people that sound like them. That's why matching and mirroring is so important when you're trying to get along with someone or when you first meet someone. Then President Trump pulls his jacket closed a little bit and turns to Dana White and points to Elon. I'm sure he said, "Hey, something good about him." Because that's what he wants to do. He wants Elon to know he's talking good about him and feels good about the situation. However, Elon shows us he's stressed. And how does he do that? By using adapters. Adapters are the things we use to get rid of that built-up stress and tension. What are the adapters he's showing? One of the classics. He rubs his hands on his legs, and then he tries to adjust his shoulder a little bit. Elon's posture is a little bit weird. He's sitting like he's a king or something. And he's probably nervous and waiting for President Trump to say something to him. And he does. It's probably a little bit loud in there because they're scooching so close together to talk and to listen to each other. And then when President Trump finishes talking, Elon does that huge head shake to let him know he's hearing him and or agrees with him. Then President Trump goes right back to the diamond with his steepling. These are all good signs for this relationship to be fixed. I've cut us to a different angle here because you can see this better. They're matching and mirroring. They're both leaned toward each other, and they're both doing the diamond steepling. Comparatively, President Trump's moving a little more smoothly than Elon is. And in this situation, Elon should be the nervous one because he's the one that approached President Trump. And President Trump could have ignored him. He could have said something mean. There's a lot of stuff that could happen there, and he knew that going in. That's probably why his stress is so high. And that's a lot of head nodding and head shaking yes to show agreement between the both of them. So as things progress, it still looks good for this relationship to be fixed. Now check out Dana White. He's over there listening, but at the same time, he's a little stressed too because he knows what a big deal this is. And apparently, President Trump is relaying what Elon said to Dana because he starts talking to Dana and then throws his thumb over there like this is what he said. And in a situation like this, when someone shares the information you just gave them, that's a good sign. Then we see Elon kind of brace himself, puts his hand on his knee, and then he puts his hand on his hand. So he's still a bit stressed here. And uncomfortable as well because he puts his hand up to his chin and then brings it right back down. He can't get comfortable yet. Then Dana says something to him and they talk back and forth a little bit. This is still an iffy situation for Dana because he doesn't know if this is going well or not. And now President Trump and Dana White are matching and mirroring each other. So it's another good sign that things are going forward and looking pretty good. Elon's still trying to get comfortable. He's got one hand on his knee, one hand on his leg. He just can't get in the pocket yet. And his posture's back in that odd-looking posture where he looks like a king sitting on a throne or something. He's probably not trying to do that. He probably didn't even realize he's doing it, but he's just nervous, I think. It's really tough introducing yourself into a situation like this, especially after you've had a big fuss with the person you're going to sit down to and start talking with. So I understand where he's coming from. You would too. I mean, it's really odd. It's an uncomfortable situation to be in for everybody there, but it needs to be done. And as adults, they understand that, and that's why it's happening. So they're trying to cope with it and make it work. Have you ever been in that situation where you're the only one clapping? I have. It's really uncomfortable. I'm sure his mind is racing because he's so stressed and he's really not sure what to do. But he knows he has to sit there and wait it out. And President Trump doesn't show any stress at all. He looks a little bit bored, but he's not showing us any cues of stress. If President Trump was stressed, there are specific cues that we would see because we're familiar with his baseline for having watched him all these years. When he's stressed, that jaw comes out a little bit. Quite often, he'll try to fix his shoulders and try to stretch his shoulders. His illustrators get kind of big, but his elbows stay really tight to his side. He backs up a little bit. His chin comes down. We see all kinds of things that let us know when he's stressed. And we're not seeing any of those here, not even one. Dana White looks like he may be stressed just a little bit because he's doing that thing with his mouth. So he looks like he understands what's happening there. And it's a little bit uncomfortable for him still. But overall, so far, everything's still looking good. Nobody looks angry. Nobody's showing those stress cues of trying to hold back anger. Nobody looks like they're talking loud. Nobody's frowning. We're not seeing any of that. So far, still, everything looks good. Now there's a flow to the conversation. When President Trump leans over and starts talking to Elon, they both go back and forth. And it's not one of those things where there's a long pause and somebody's real stiffened up and all stressed. Elon's been pretty stressed up to this point, but I think he's relaxing a little bit. He's still mirroring President Trump. You can see the steepling happening there. He's leaned forward. He's leaned toward President Trump. And they go back and forth with the conversation, and it's flowing. I know that sounds odd, but a lot of times when you see a stressful situation like this, one person will talk, there'll be a long pause, and the other person will talk really quickly, and the other person will pause, and then they'll talk a little bit slower, and then they'll speed up, and the other person slows down. It gets really odd, but this is a good flow here. And notice as well, they're not looking each other right in the eye. Quite often when you meet someone in person, you'll see like two men, for example, when they walk up to talk to each other, they're usually face to face like this. Hey, how's it going? They'll shake hands and then they'll turn at an angle to each other. The next time you meet someone, pay attention to this. Because when you walk up and shake that person's hand, you don't stand there facing them like this the whole time. You kind of back up a little bit and you turn to the side. You can't help it because you don't feel aggressive toward that person and they probably don't feel aggressive toward you. So one of you or both of you will turn to the side a little bit. And that's totally normal. You're letting each other know you're not being aggressive toward the other one. In this situation, that's basically what we're seeing here. That's why they're not like face-to-face talking. If they're both sitting up straight, face-to-face, and then talking as fast and back and forth as they are now, that wouldn't be good. But this is relaxed. They're getting along. Hey, everybody. Just a quick intro. I want you to meet Jessica, our sponsorship specialist. Hi, Jessica.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, thanks for letting me do this because I want to use it as an example. So check this out. I just Googled your full name. Now, your address is in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes, that's creepy.
And your phone number is 214 or 8.
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's the creepy part. Your personal address, phone number, and email are all out there for anybody to find. All I did was just Google and search you. And it's not a hack. It's data brokers, companies that collect and sell your information to marketers, scammers, and even identity thieves. And it's totally legal and completely creepy. They're supposed to remove your information if you ask them to, then they bury it in all that legalese and red tape, so you'll just give up. But you can do what we do. You can use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura scans the web for data brokers that are sharing your information and automatically sends opt-out requests on your behalf. But Aura doesn't stop there. It monitors the dark web 24/7 and it alerts you fast if any of your information shows up. Now, it'll warn you if somebody tries to open a bank account or credit line in your name. And if something goes wrong, you're covered with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. And a US-based fraud team is ready to step in. Plus, Aura includes a world-class VPN so you can browse and shop safely from anywhere. It's privacy protection and peace of mind all in one. So go to aura.com/Scott Rouse and get 14 days for free. And that's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your information from the internet. All right, thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Scott.
This is where President Trump lets Elon off the hook. In a situation like this, Elon probably doesn't know what to do. He's really stressed. President Trump could probably see that. So he says, hey, listen, man, as he's shaking his hand, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. It's good seeing you again. He may have said, get a hold of me. Let's do lunch or supper or whatever those kind of people do. I don't know. But Elon sees it as, this is my out. I'm out of here. Great. This went well. So then he gets up and leaves. From a body language and behavior perspective, this looks pretty good as far as mending that relationship. But let's listen to what President Trump says on the plane on the way back to Washington when someone asks him about that interaction.
Mr. President, everyone's saying that Charlie brought you and Elon back together. Is that true?
Well, Elon came over and said hello. No, it's nothing to do with that. I thought it was nice. He came over, we had a little conversation. We had a very good relationship, but it was nice that he came over. Dana White was there, the great Dana White.
The newswoman says, everybody's saying that Charlie brought you and Elon Musk back together again. Is that true?
And everyone's saying that Charlie brought you and Elon back together. Is that true?
When she asks that question, President Trump makes sure to say, no, this situation had nothing to do with us reconnecting. Then he talks about the relationship in the past tense.
We had a very good relationship.
We had a good relationship. Then to change the subject, he moves on to how Dana White was there.
But it was nice that he came over. Dana White was there, the great Dana White.
And that's fine because he's probably got to process all that happened. He's going to go home, talk to Melania, and she's going to say, what happened? What did he say? You know that's going to happen. And he'll probably say, well, Elon came over and we talked while everything looked pretty good. Everything went really well. Let's see what happens. That's what I think happened after that, which makes sense. So there you have it. Elon Musk and President Trump reconnecting. That's a famous relationship. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens next. Is he going to show up at the White House again? I don't know. Let me know what you think, for real. Let me know in the comments because I read every comment. Before boarding Marine One on the south lawn of the White House, President Trump dropped the F-bomb live on TV. So I'm going to break down his body language behavior, almost sentence by sentence, leading up to and executing this 9-second viral clip.
But reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it.
President Trump steps in with his calm, deliberate, open posture. He shakes his head yes because he's listening. And then when he starts answering, we see a little bit of anger there. We see the upper teeth on the lower teeth.
I think they both violated it.
His chin juts out just a little bit. That usually lets us know there's defiance or something the person doesn't agree with. And he does this quite often in these situations or when he's getting angry. His illustrators are low. It's mostly with his right hand. Then he regulates with the same hand. And a regulator is where you control the situation or the person or the conversation. You put your hand up and you say, hey, hang on just a minute. You just hang on. You come here. You go over there. Everybody go this way. Those are regulators. You're regulating the situation. And we see him use his regulator as he holds his hand up and says, as soon as I can get away from you.
As soon as I get away from you.
Sir, Eddie Silverville this morning. How confident are you that the loss? I think it should be completely developed.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
He's gesturing a lot with his head. It's the head's way of illustrating. Illustrators are the way your brain emphasizes specific words and phrases. Like I did just then, specific words and phrases.
You know, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed.
When he says those pilots, those B-2 pilots.
Those pilots, those B-2 pilots.
He pops up.
Those pilots, those B-2 pilots.
When someone does that, we call it gravity-defying behavior.
Those pilots, those B-2 pilots.
You'll see it at weddings when a groom sees the bride for the first time. You'll see it when somebody's on the phone and they get great news, they'll pop up.
Those pilots, those B-2 pilots.
Gravity-defying behavior. It indicates something good. So he's proud of those pilots. When he says they did an unbelievable job, he leans back a little bit, then pops forward. That's another cue that lets us know he's proud of these guys. Now, here's where the anger begins to grow throughout the rest of the clips.
They're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed.
He becomes more animated. This is classic Trump behavior. It's his anger baseline. With his head lowered, he calls out CNN and CNBC.
CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC.
His cadence speeds up. His voice gets a little bit louder. His tone strengthens a little bit, and he leans into the statement.
CNN is scum. And so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better.
We see lots of gesturing with the head, lots of illustrators. For him, this is a little bit of aggression, but he's making sure his point is made. There's a little bit of furrowing in the brow. The glabella, that's these little group of muscles right here, that also indicates the anger is growing.
Iran can rebuild its nuclear program.
Now, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real lazy.
As he's talking about Iran being demolished, his head and his torso swing back and forth a little bit. He's a little bit confident here. And he adds a smile at the end of that first phrase. That also shows us there's confidence. And one more time, he pops up when he says B-2 pilots.
The B-2 pilots did their job.
That's because he's proud of them and what they've accomplished.
The B-2 pilots did their job.
We see the classic Trump pinch when he's talking about him as well. Now, what he'll do is when he's getting specific about something, that's when he uses the pinch. We're going to do this. I saw this happen. That's what's going to happen next. He gets very specific when he uses that pinch. Again, when he's talking about CNN, he gets very animated.
But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought.
He's swinging his arms. He's swaying back and forth. That's his way of bringing more attention to what he's talking about, making it more important. The emotions and the anger are building.
Israel says that they violated the
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
This is where he starts getting specific about his nemesis, CNN. And every time he says CNN, you see disgust.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN, but I think CNN...
And whenever he gets super specific, this is the body language you see with President Trump. He starts illustrating heavily with that right arm. Whether he's talking about a bill that needs to be passed, a law that needs to be enacted, or an enemy, we see specific body language that he uses over and over and over. The pinch is one thing. Another thing is that forefinger and thumb like this, and he starts illustrating with those. And then we see the open-handed gestures, starts gesturing and pushing with that hand. And during this, he's looking right down the barrel of the camera like he's talking right to that person. And his anger continues to build as his word choices get specific and pointed.
But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times.
At this point, he's blowing off steam. We all do it. Lord knows I do it. And his facial expressions tighten up here a little bit as well. Then he really leans into that reporter while he's talking about Brian Roberts.
A guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
And again, these are all typical behaviors when you see anger ramping up like this.
Said that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to cease?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
During his little stroll there, you could tell he's getting angry because of that tight lip compression. And this walk is a little bit slow for him. That lets us know he's thinking and seething. Then he locks eyes with the reporter as he's relaying what he's not happy about.
So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket.
Then when he says Israel violated it too, we see that classic Trump jaw clench.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning?
And it's on now. This is where the anger starts to grow. His voice gets louder, his tone gets stronger, and he's starting to get animated again. And his illustrators are the largest they've been, and they're spot on. He's emphasizing all the things he's mad about. He's almost peaking with his anger here as he talks about Israel going out that morning.
But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land.
Then he closes his mouth, clenches his jaw, and waits for the next question. This is anger writ large.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Now, keep in mind, when somebody says, you know what, when they're all tense and there's a stressful situation going on, they're getting ready to tell you exactly what they think, no filters and no holds barred. And that's what happens here.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
This entire clip shows the peak and delivery of frustration and anger at the highest level President Trump shows ever. He locks eyes with the reporter.
You know what?
His voice gets louder and louder.
Countries that have been fighting so long and so
he
hard
leans in.
that they
Then
don't
bang,
know what the they're doing.
There it is. The F-bomb heard round the world.
That they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Another thing that lets us know he's angry, he keeps looking at the reporter while he's walking away. You ever seen somebody do that? You ever had somebody do that to you? It's unnerving. And as he walks away, he's not walking away fast. He's walking away slow. Now it's the cathartic release after all that energy and tension and frustration is built up. He lets that go. And as he's walking away, we can feel everybody kind of relaxing just a little bit because they know it's over. I felt it. I know you probably felt it. So there you have it. President Trump getting as mad as he gets and then letting it out. We're going to take a look at Hunter Biden's latest interview. It's supposed to be an unedited long form, and it's 3 hours long. However, there are edits all over this thing. And also, the question of his sobriety came up several times. And is he still taking drugs? Well, we're going to take a look at this from a body language and behavior perspective and find some answers to those questions.
All right, Mr. Biden, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
This is a little bit awkward because they didn't just meet. They met before this. And it's that awkward, hello, and welcome to the interview handshake. So the awkwardness is normal here.
How long has it been since you've done a formal sit-down interview?
You know, it's been a while. Been a long while. I had a conversation with Jamie Harrison, who's the former chair of the DNC. He's a great friend, loyal. And I was down in South Carolina for other things and kind of like family down there. So I sat down with him and talked about some stuff, but nothing like this.
Do you feel like now's the time for a official, unedited long form?
Well, I don't know when it is the right time or not the right time. I'm an admirer of your work, and we have a mutual acquaintance. It didn't take me much to agree to be really interested. I think the work that you've done is some of the most interesting commentary on.
First off, this is in no way an unedited long-form interview. This has been edited. Now, let me show you where the first biggie is. Listen to this bird.
Agree to be really interested. I think agree to be really interested. I think
that bird's been chopped off halfway between its song there. Listen again.
Agree to be really interested. I think agree to be really interested. I think agree to be really interested. I think
How do I know this? Listen to this.
Transparent about it. Transparent about it. Transparent about it.
That's how long it's supposed to be, but it gets chopped off. So right out of the gate, right after he says this is unedited.
Official, unedited, unedited, unedited.
It's been edited. So let's keep our little tools wide open and pay attention to everything that's said and done, because there's deception all over this thing from the beginning. Hunter shows almost no movement at all, and he's hunting for a compliment to give this interviewer. His illustrators are tiny, and illustrators are how we emphasize specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. Now, when they're small, that usually lets us know that person isn't very confident about what they're talking about, or it could show us deception. It's a cue for deception that we look for usually. We know that from the studies Aldrich Vray did. Look into those, you'll love them.
I hadn't seen much of the earlier work that you had done, but I do know that I at least appreciate the sincerity with which you approach everything that you do.
This is just the professional's way of saying, hey man, I watched your last interview you did just to make sure I wanted to do this and made sure I felt okay about it.
I hadn't seen much of the the earlier work that you had done, but I do know that I at least appreciate the sincerity with which you approach everything that you do.
And there's an edit here as well. When he says the earlier work that you had done, there's a cut, and he says, but I do know that Now check out his hands. They're in different places.
Earlier work that you had done, but I do know that earlier work that you had done, but I do know that earlier work that you had done, but I do know that
So that's another red flag of deception here.
Earlier work that you had done, but I do know that
Pay attention to how Hunter gets quieter and quieter as he goes along there to the end. Those are fading facts, that's what we call them. And that lets us know there's not a lot of confidence there either. Quite often we see that with a deception.
Earlier work that you had done, but I do know that I at least appreciate the sincerity with which you approach everything that you do.
Well, I think there's probably millions of people out there who just want to know how you're doing.
Personally, I'm great.
That's a whole lot of fumbling around and adapting to be doing great.
I tell everybody, and Melissa gets kind of upset with me because it has been obviously a difficult time. You know, the past 5 years have not, at least from any outsider's perspective, been fun. But for me, as a person in recovery and being able to maintain that recovery through this and stay clean and sober throughout it, so one thing I allow myself to take some pride in.
And he clenches his hands here. That's adapting. That lets us know he's trying to get rid of some of that built-up stress and tension. And he introduces his drug addiction here. So he's starting to steer the conversation that way.
But for me, as a person in recovery and being able to maintain that recovery through this and stay clean and sober throughout it, so one thing I allow myself to take some pride in.
Yeah, quite often, former addicts will become that person who was addicted to whatever it was. And for a few years, that's all they'll talk about is how proud they are of themselves and how well they're doing. And they'll talk about the date they stopped. Sometimes that's all they can do is think about that all the time so they don't go back to it. That's very important. So I'm not slamming that or anything, but he sure talks about it a lot in here. And that's probably why he's showing so many cues of stress, because he's got that on his mind. He's trying not to go back to it. And we're not seeing any cues of him being anxious. So I don't think he's worried about a surprise question in here anywhere.
And I know about my life is that I survived almost certain death. And I mean, I don't know if you read my book, but I'm pretty transparent about it. Having survived that hell kind of prepared me to be able to make it through kind of the public humiliation that, I don't know any other way to put it, that I've experienced over the past close to 5 years now. And it doesn't seem to stop, but I'm more grounded in who I am and what matters to me and what I'm grateful for on a daily basis than I've ever been in my life. And physically, I'm in a hell of a lot better shape than I was since my last drink or drug 6 years ago.
Here, his illustrator's getting larger and larger. That lets us know he's getting more confident. He's relaxing a little bit and his stress isn't as heavy as it was. And just to remind you, listen to how long that bird call is in the background.
To take some pride in. And
he's adapting a lot. He's clenching that right hand, then rubbing his leg.
I mean, I don't know if you read my book, but I'm pretty transparent about it.
I'm sure all this is because he's uncomfortable talking about this, as anyone would be. So I'm sure that's what's happening. But there's nothing out of the ordinary here for someone relaying information like this or an experience like he's had.
I'm more grounded in who I am and what matters to me and what I'm grateful for on a daily basis than I've ever been in my life.
I know a lot of these phrases he's saying sound a little bit off or odd. That's because he's in recovery, and we call that recovery language. That's the way someone in recovery talks. Because quite often, again, that's all they think about is being in recovery so they don't go back to the problem.
So it's been 6 years?
Yeah, just over 6 years.
When you say you almost died, can you kind of give us some more context?
I was a drinker, and at the end, my addiction had progressed so much that it was potentially deadly on a daily basis.
This is where things start to look a little bit iffy to me. We're seeing several cues of deception here. When he says, so it's been 6 years, watch how Biden grabs his leg.
So it's been 6 years?
Yeah, just over 6 years.
It looks like he's bracing. Then listen to how he talks. Again, let's go back to fading facts. When someone's telling you something, their brain says, you shouldn't be telling that, or I'm not very confident with this. They'll get quieter and quieter as they go along. This is fading facts writ large.
So it's been 6 years?
Yeah, just over 6 years.
And here's another edit. When he says, you said you almost died. Can you give us a little bit more context? The cut from that to the next one, Look at his hands again. Completely different place.
When you say you almost died, can you kind of give us some more context?
I was a
Give us some more context.
I was a
Give us some more context.
I was a
Give us some more context.
I was a
And just so you know, when somebody claims something is unedited and I see it edited, that gets on my last nerve because that's one of my pet peeves. It's deception, and there are no two ways about it. They're saying they're showing you one thing, but they're showing you something else. This is also a tricky one because we're seeing this hand squeezing and moving around and stuff because he's probably, again, nervous about what he's talking about. But when you mix these two groups of cues like this, that's when it doesn't look right. That's when things look deceptive.
So your kind of most prolific bender was during the Trump era, between 2016 and 2020, which I think is important to clarify. It is not when your father was in the White House.
Exactly. 100% not. There's this conflation that people have. I mean, I think they're opening up an investigation to cocaine that was found in a cubby outside the West Wing of the White House.
I think it was Don Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about old White House.
Yeah, when my dad was there.
Oh, so they just got to blame you automatically.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally going to do an FBI, another congressional investigation, because they've convinced themselves that it had to be me, that there was a little tiny. And I guess my point of even bringing it up is that no. I have been clean and sober since June of 2019, and I have not touched a drop of alcohol or a drug, and I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of that.
All right, here's another edit between exactly and 100%.
Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%.
In one frame, his mouth is closed, and the next frame, his mouth is open, and he's already saying the word one.
Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%.
Again, this is deceptive editing. I want you to pay attention to that.
Exactly. 100%. Exactly. 100%.
And the most edited parts of this entire interview were the parts where he talks about his drug addiction and recovery. And it's starting to make me think this may be the only reason they did this interview was to talk about his drug addiction and recovery and where he is with it. And they're making sure everything is as clean and clear as possible. And they're editing out anything that doesn't get right to the point. In this video of me you're watching right now, I'm editing myself. I edit out all the pauses. I edit out when I say something wrong or it sounds weird. And that's normal. I'm supposed to be doing that. And I'm not trying to hide it. I didn't tell you I wasn't. But when you see me talking and you see these tight little cuts between sentences, that's what's happening. I'm editing out the stuff that takes too long or sounds weird. Back to Hunter. There should be a little bit more emotion in what he's talking about. He's talking about something that's really important to him, and we're not hearing the emotion we should hear that comes with that.
I think they're opening up an investigation to cocaine that was found in a cubby outside the West Wing of the White House.
I think it was Don Jr.
Yeah.
And when he talks about how the drugs weren't his, there's no emotion in that either. There should be a strong emotion in there, like, no, that wasn't mine. They've got that wrong. We don't see any of that. This sounds rehearsed.
Oh, so they just got to blame you automatically.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally going to do an FBI, another congressional investigation, because they've convinced themselves that it had to be me, that there was a little tiny.
For what all that's been said about him, for what all that's been put on him about this drug thing in the White House, he should be a little more emotional about this, even angry.
There's this conflation that people have. I mean, I think they're opening up an investigation to cocaine that was found in a cubby outside the West Wing of the White House.
I think it was Don Jr.
Yeah.
And we also hear fading facts, again, when he talks about how long he's been clean.
I have been clean and sober since June of 2019, and I have not touched a drop of alcohol or a drug, and I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of that.
That indicates what? A lack of confidence and possibly deception.
Your sobriety date was before the 2020 election cycle. When exactly do you think you had your last go?
Officially June 1st, 2019.
Oh, so pretty significantly before.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with that answer. He's goofing around with his ear. He starts pulling on and stretching his mouth and his face.
Officially June 1st, 2019.
Oh, so pretty significantly before.
Yeah.
And again, those are huge stress cues.
Officially June 1st, 2019.
Oh, so pretty significantly before.
Yeah.
So there's something to this. This looks like containment of emotion. In other words, he doesn't want to show what he's really feeling. He's trying not to, but this is really stressful. And one reason this may be so stressful for him, one reason we may be seeing him touch his face and pull on his ear and all that for the first time, maybe he's fallen off the wagon and he didn't want to tell anybody. This is a cluster of cues we look for when we're looking for deception.
I can remember covering the 2020 election about a year later, and I think it was the first Stop the Steal rally at Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia, and I saw what I thought was a BLM flag, Black Lives Matter, but it actually said Biden's laptop matters.
Oh, yeah.
And so I asked the guy, what the hell does that mean? And he just sort of kept yelling the slogan over and over again. Couldn't get much out of him.
Yeah.
There's not much going on here. He's pretty much just listening. So that's what we're seeing, the body language of someone just listening to the question. He's fairly still. We don't see anything that tells us he's anxious. We don't see anything that tells us he's worried. We don't see anything that tells us he's stressed. So everything looks fine here.
Well, I don't know. You tell me. And I really mean that sincerely. Like, you'll have a lot of people that will come up with something about the laptop. But I always say to anybody, I mean, you're steeped in the, and just through your work, the right-wing narrative around it. And my question to anybody that is keeping an open mind is, what is it that you think the laptop proves, or what you call the laptop? So everybody has a laptop. So when they say Hunter Biden's laptop, what is it that they're talking about?
His illustrators in this one are higher, but they're rigid. His elbows are locked to the arms of the chair, and they're not doing much. He's just holding them in place.
When they say Hunter Biden's laptop, what is it that they're talking about?
He knows what everybody thinks about the laptop. There are photos and videos on there of him breaking the law, doing things we wouldn't do, but his laptop is a big deal, and he knows why. We all have our own thoughts and opinions about this. I want to know what yours are, so put them in the comments. And if you're a regular viewer here, you know I read every one of them. If you're new here, put your comment below. I want to read it. I want to hear what you have to say, good or bad.
From what it seemed like, it was a lot of private text between you and your friends, family. Your entire sort of private life was on there.
Yeah. And again, so everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a cloud.
I'm assuming not.
No. Not everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a digital life. Almost everybody has a digital life. Everybody has a digital life, pretty much. And that includes voicemails and pictures and text messages and emails and location data and, everything. Everybody, you do, everybody that is here right now. By whatever means, they got my digital footprint going back decades. Over 20 years. Again, I ask anybody, you're steeped in this, and this isn't a challenging question, but it kind of makes my point. What does my laptop prove about criminality or anything, other than what I had already readily admitted to, completely transparent about?
There's a lot going on in this one. His hands are open, he's illustrating a lot, and we see a confirmation nod when he's reiterating everybody.
Everybody, 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 everybody.
So what's a confirmation nod? That's something I coined. It's when someone is saying no, but their head is going like this, is shaking yes. Most people are under the impression that means they're lying. However, look at the rhythm of the shake and when it hits. If it hits on the words like an illustrator, then they're confirming the no. Same thing with a yes. If they're saying, I would never do that. Yes. Watch how their head goes back and forth and listen to the rhythm when it hits both sides. He's illustrating or she's illustrating when they do that. So they're confirming the answer.
Everybody, everybody.
What's interesting here is he breaks the fourth wall when he looks right down the barrel of the camera when he says, everybody has a digital life.
Everybody has a digital life. Everybody has a digital life.
He wants to make sure he's connecting with the person watching. It's subtle, but it's there.
Everybody has a digital life.
And there's a huge edit between that includes and voicemails.
And that includes voicemails. And that includes voicemails.
Whatever was first on that list has been left out, and they just went to voicemails. Again, deceptive editing, it's one of my pet peeves.
And that includes voicemails.
And right here, another huge deceptive edit.
What does my laptop prove about criminality or anything?
Between about and criminality.
About criminality. About criminality.
Pay attention to his hands.
About criminality. About criminality.
That's deception. That's lying. And I want you to pay attention to that so nobody stings you.
It was that one debate that caused the full backslide.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you what, I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times.
Yeah.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights. And it feeds into every story that anybody wants to tell. And Jake Tapper, with literally how many anonymous sources. If this was a conspiracy, Andrew, you know this. Somehow, the entirety of a White House in which you literally living on top of each other has kept their mouth shut about, like what? And what's the conspiracy?
Yeah.
That Joe Biden got old? Yeah, he got old.
Now, this is the big one. This is the fastest he's talked. It's the loudest he's talked. Listen to how clearly he's talking.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
His voice tone is higher. His hands are moving much more than they have up to this point.
Tapper with literally how many anonymous sources. If this was
This is the kind of emotion we should have seen when he was talking about being blamed for the drugs in the White House.
somehow the entirety of a White House in which you literally living on top of each other has kept their mouth shut about.
He also lets go some information here he probably shouldn't have. He talks about how Joe Biden, when he was president, was taking Ambien. That made a big dust up in the media.
They give him Ambien to be able to sleep.
And we see more anger here when he talks about his father not having dementia, but everybody else knows he does. And that's where he shows the most anger and frustration in his facial expressions and his voice tone and volume. But keep in mind, this is a kid defending his father, so I get it. There's a whole lot more in this 3-hour interview, but I just kept the important parts. The language got kind of bad, and I was muting and beeping so many things, it just sounded weird.
But have some euphoric discussion about until...
You didn't go from...
to... You got any... She told me. That's how powerful... Does make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make... What you're doing is you're burning off all the impurity. I'm not saying that in and of itself is in any way safe or recommended.
So there you have it. All right, let's talk about this Trump-Vance-Zelensky thing that's going on, okay? There are a couple things that happen in this video that we're going to look at that have never been done before on video, anyway, or on film. It's bizarre that nobody is saying, hey, man, look at this, and you'll understand that in just a minute. So let's go through this section by section and talk about what's going on from a body language and behavior perspective.
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Now, I'm going to play this one again. I want you to pay attention to how fluid Zelensky's body language is. Usually we say crossed arms means absolutely nothing, but in this case, he's being defensive with it because of the situation of what's happening here. Look at how fluid his head is moving when he's got those eyebrows up and he's looking at Vance, and he's using what's called his teaching face. I learned that from Greg Hartley. I sent him a video one time of somebody I was looking at. I said, dude, what's going on with this guy's face? He said, that's his teaching face. And that's what this is here. But this is a great example of someone who has a lot of confidence, even though they're being a little defensive to the person sitting next to them, to the person they're talking to. They've got a lot of confidence in what's happening. And this is actually when he steps at it. So let's take a look at this one more time.
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future, God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't know
God
that.
bless. You will not have to worry.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering
position to
honest
dictate
questions.
that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
When we talk about illustrators, which we're seeing a whole lot of them here, illustrators are the way the brain emphasizes specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. We're seeing Trump do this a lot, and we're seeing Zelensky do this a lot. Trump's are much larger because his confidence is on a much larger scale than Zelensky's is. Zelensky is pretty much just illustrating with his head at this point. And then Trump has got his hands out, he's got his arms out, he's moving forward. Let's take a look at the way they're both sitting. Trump is scooted forward a little bit. Zelensky isn't, again, because he's in a defensive mode, quote unquote. So his take on the situation or his approach to it is going to be a whole lot different. Now, watch how close Trump gets to Zelensky. Okay, he's getting close there. He's getting in his turf. He's getting in his area. Always makes us uncomfortable when somebody gets in our space. And that's what Trump is doing. And he's probably doing it on purpose because he's taking up a whole lot more room, showing that he's the guy in charge, the one in control, the alpha of the situation. Zelensky's from another country. So watch how small his illustrators are. He's trying to illustrate, and the only way he can really show his anger or his frustration is through his voice with volume. It gets louder and quieter and all that. But listen to Trump's. Trump's diction is spot on. It's very clean. Listen to how loud it is. Listen to the tone of voice he's using.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
Because that tone is that a little bit rough, but you can tell he's a little bit angry. If you look at Trump's eyebrows, you'll see that anger pop up in there. You'll see these come forward right here in this little area here. It's called the glabella. And when you see the eyebrows come in, obviously you know what anger is. Everyone pretty much does. But watch his teeth and watch his mouth. When he gets mad, his nostrils flare a little bit. You can see those bottom teeth, sometimes the upper teeth, but mostly his bottom teeth. Now on Zelensky, he's frustrated and he's getting angry. He's trying to control himself, trying to control his anger because he's not used to dealing with leaders who push up against him like this. Up to this point, he's had people saying, oh, you're wonderful. Here's what's going on. We'll do, what do you need? Here you go. We're going to do this. And these guys are saying, no, man, you're not, this isn't what we're doing now. Things have changed. Here's what needs to happen next. He's not used to that. So we see what's called inner dialogue going on up here as he looks away and is talking and tries to get a handle on what he's going to say next as he's structuring his sentences, as he's preparing his statements to say next. But they've sort of got him, he's having to do it on the fly. So it's sort of got him off kilter or offset just a bit, which is normal for a situation like this.
In the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position.
Also notice how often Trump looks Zelensky in the eye and how often Zelensky doesn't look at Trump in the eye. Okay? He looks down. Because it's tough to look at somebody when they're getting after you, when they're getting up your hind end, when you're that close. Okay, unless you're getting ready to fight them or something. If they had kept looking, it could have gotten even more heated. And another cool thing about this is we're seeing the classic Trump pointing. We're seeing his point finger, which he uses to take control of situations. When we control a situation with our hands, those are called regulators because you can slow something down, tell somebody not to do something, hang on, I need your attention. You don't do that. You come over here. Those kind of things. Stop, everybody stop, time out. Those kind of things regulate the speed of the conversation or the situation. So Trump uses those a lot, and he's really good at it.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Keep an eye on Zelensky's eyes and watch how they dart around because he's got these phrases, these little things he says, like 2 or 3 sentences that are prepared that he just shoots out as his normal things to say, and he can't get one out. That's why he keeps repeating the top of that sentence.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position.
He's trying to get that thought out because that's one of his little go-tos where he puts out, he puts God in it, and he puts, here's what they're going to do. It's real tight. In a few minutes, you'll hear him talk about we've been alone, and you can see him settle in to deliver that. So this is really interesting because we see someone structuring and preparing their answer that is locked and loaded. They've got a bunch of them sitting over here, a list of things they usually say, and none of that is working. So he's not quite in panic mode, but he's getting right up next to it, but he's frustrated as he's trying to find a way to get his point across and get his little saying across in the situation, and it's not working.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
This is a great example of 2 people using illustrators and regulators at the same time, because Trump is illustrating with one hand and he's regulating with the other. It's like, hold up, and then he's telling you what he's going to do or what's going to happen next. So that's really interesting. And listen to the volume difference in Zelensky and Trump.
With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
We're
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're gambling with World War III.
Obviously, Zelensky's is a lot lower and Trump's a lot higher. And again, his voice tone sounds getting to where it sounds angry, and his voice is his face is showing anger as well. Look at these expressions. What's the expressions Zelensky's face from anger to what, to confusion to concern? What's the different emotions that flow through his face? They don't pop on and off, but you can see him morph from one to the other. Whereas Trump's really don't change. It's that one expression he's gotten that he's using over and over and over to make sure his point gets across.
With us, you start having
not
cards.
Playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're gambling with World War III.
Also pay attention to all the single shoulder and very short shoulder shrugs that Zelensky is showing and doing. These little cues are popping off. Now, when someone shows you a little single shoulder shrug like that, that lets you know they're not sure about or they're insecure with their answer. They're not confident with it, in other words. We're seeing a lot of that. A lot of that, one going up like that and his chin pointing toward it. Really interesting. Whereas Trump, he's not doing that. He's pretty much staying where he was, got his regulator up and he's got his illustrator happening and making his point with with that voice we've been talking about at this point. It's not changing. It's the same thing. Whereas Zelensky really can't find the pocket to get into to approach this situation and hopefully make things change. And when you get in that position, it's really frustrating, and you can see the frustration building on him. At the same time, he's starting to have that thought of, what am I going to do next? This has gone sideways on me. I don't know what to do next. So he just keeps trudging forward and trying to get through the mess that's going on. You can't see him very well, but keep an eye on Zelensky's hands when they're down here, because he's doing what's called adapting, and that's where you do a repetitive motion, something over and over to get rid of that built-up stress and tension. That's how we do it. Sometimes it's this, and you'll rub your arm or your shoulder like this, or you'll maybe grip something and pull on it, and that will help get rid of that built-up stress and tension. Sometimes that when your arms are crossed, that's what that can be, because you're sort of hugging yourself, and that helps you relax. Zelensky has a little bitty area that he's claimed is his, whereas Trump has practically the whole room because of the way his arms are moving, the way he's moving around, the way he's leaning forward.
With us, you start having
not
cards.
Playing cards.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
Notice how Zelensky's eyebrows are up almost the whole time, because he's trying to get their attention. When you do that, quite often it shows you're listening, obviously. And then again, it's one of those things where you do that to get someone's attention and to keep their attention, but it's not working because Trump really isn't looking at him. Okay, and he's telling them the way things are and what's going to happen next again. As Zelensky tries to get through, he's becoming even quieter and smaller, if you'll take a look at him, because his confidence at this point is out the window. Not much there at all, especially when you're compared to President Trump, who at this point is angry. And when you get somebody like that angry, their aggressive body language is going to come out. And Trump's getting even closer to him as with his illustrators. He's taken up not only his own space, Trump's space, he's taken up Zelensky's space as well. That becomes uncomfortable early on when you start something like that. And I think that's what's going on here. It's a tack you can take. Also, keep an eye out for that big swallow that Zelensky does as he's talking, because he's not quite in panic mode, but he knows this has gone sideways on him. And somehow he's got to try to fix it. And he doesn't see a way to fix it. So he's looking for his way out here, because at this point, he's being pummeled by Trump and he's looking for an out. That's why he keeps looking around. And then Vice President Vance speaks up and he sees that as an out and he goes directly to that. And in a minute, he thinks that's actually helping him, but we'll see what happens.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
Should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today,
have you said thank
even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly.
What's really interesting here is when Vance leans up, he takes his tie and he straightens his tie out. That's the things you're preening, saying, all right, here I go. Get ready. I've got some information for you. He's a really great debater. Well, President Trump and Vice President Vance are both fantastic debaters. So that's why he's talking so slowly. All right, he's talking very slowly and making his point. His illustrators are on point. So when someone's illustrators are on point, obviously your brain is emphasizing specific words and phrases. When they're doing this and hitting on the words, you can tell that person's locked up with what's happening. If they don't hit where they're supposed to, or they keep hitting after you talk, and they're not landing on the specific words and phrases, that means there's a disconnect between what you're actually saying and what you actually mean. Because since there's that disconnect, you're not actually making your point. Whereas with someone with a lot of emotion behind it is making their point. And obviously Vance here is making his point the way he wants to. So this is really interesting because no matter how hard Zelensky tries to shut Vance down, not going to happen. Because Vance is being very clear. His diction is spot on. His tone of voice is strong. It's spot on. So is his volume. Everything is good here.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Everything is happening the way it should happen for Vance at this point, where Zelensky, that soft-spoken thing, isn't working. A lot of times you can talk really quietly and everybody will hush and start listening to you because you're talking quietly. That's not working here. I think that's what he's trying to do in a couple of spots because it's such a dramatic difference volume-wise from one side of the room to his side of the room. And even from him, he's talking way up here, then his volume comes way low like this as he tries to look and talk seriously.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
This is a really great example of someone taking control of a conversation, even though the other person is trying to take control as well, using a tact that isn't working. And you see the respect that Trump has for Vance because as soon as Vance says something, Trump goes back to his classic thing where he's steepling and starts listening. At the same time, we see what's called pursed lips. And pursed lips suggest, or they denote, that that person doesn't agree with what's happening. And President Trump doesn't agree with what's happening with Zelensky. That's why he's so angry. Again, Zelensky comes in like he's looking down at, which he is because obviously he's literally looking down at him because Vance is in a seat that's down lower than Zelensky's. But he starts talking in this, in the tone and the look, and his head up and his chin back a little bit, those eyebrows up, giving it to him like, here's the way things are, son. And Trump's not having that, him disrespect his vice president.
If you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly.
Another interesting thing is at the end of Vice President Vance's speech, his part, listen to how he ends that when he talks. And then he makes sure every word illustrates with the important words. And then he sits back in his seat like, this is done, I'm over. It's really interesting how powerful that is when it's done correctly.
President who's trying to save your country.
And when President Trump breaks in and says he's not speaking loudly, watch how Zelensky is taken aback by what's happened because he literally backs up some and gets away from it a little bit. This is natural. We can't help it. When something like that bothers us, we want to get away from it, but he can't get away from it. So it's really interesting to see how the little things in human behavior and body language that you see every day, you're seeing right here. They're just on a larger scale.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
The war
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. you have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment. You men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this, I tell you.
Now let's pay attention to the fingers here. Okay, so when Zelensky starts talking, he puts his hand on his chest. And he's got a lot of space between his fingers. Like, hey, listen, here's what's going on, fellas. Here's what I know. Here's what's happening. But look at all the space, because when someone has a lot of space between their fingers, that lets you know that they're confident. They're more confident in what they're talking about, the situation, how they feel about things. And when there's less space, obviously they don't feel as confident with what's going on. He thinks at this point he's going to deliver this packaged and ready to go little bit that he's been given all around the world when he goes to give these speeches, and he's going to deliver that and it's going to be fine. Trump shuts him down. Trump actually steps in with both hands, with all of his fingers is wide open like this. That shows a lot of confidence, and very loud, and shutting him down.
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
But he's getting ready to deliver that thing where we've been alone and we're by ourselves. And you can tell he kind of sits down, doesn't sit down, but he sort of backs up a little bit and just sits in it and starts going with it. Trump's like, no, man, that's not true. You haven't been alone.
We are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
You
and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this, I tell you.
Let's watch one more time the illustrators that Zelensky is using with his hand. Like we were talking about fingers a minute ago in space. Look at how much space there isn't between his fingers as he's illustrating. Then right away, Trump comes back with his fingers wide open. This is a great contrast between leadership and confidence with somebody who's trying to lead and trying to have confidence.
We are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
This thing's heating up quick, and there's some things from a body language perspective that are really fascinating, because we're getting ready to see what I've been talking about. The thing people are bringing it up, but they're not realizing this has never, ever, ever, ever happened before. All right, let's watch this and see if you see it.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
President Trump pushes him, literally pushes him.
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment.
Never before has a leader pushed another leader in front of everybody. They may have done it in the back room, like I said, where they do the negotiating stuff, but never out here in the open. So this says a lot. There's a lot going on here, and I can't believe nobody's actually focused on this so far, because that is a really big deal. Let's watch a little more of this interaction so you can get a feel of how it wound up.
All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television. I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together.
So now you can see how it kind of wound down a little bit and got to a semi-normal situation before Zelensky left. And but it goes like this sometimes, but it doesn't happen in public in front of the world like this. So this was a fascinating study of two leaders and how things probably happen when they're backstage, when nobody's there, and you can see how deals are made and things happen. This gives you a little insight to how things may really go down in those things. I'm not saying this is the first time a leader hasn't pushed another leader. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure they holler and scream and throw stuff or whatever it is they do. But this is the first time we've seen it in public, and the world saw it. In 2022, Julie and Todd Chrisley were convicted of bank fraud and tax evasion. They started doing their time in 2023. She was going to do 7 years. He was going to do 12 years. And President Trump pardoned them in May of this year. And anytime a couple gets out of prison and they get back together for an interview, I like to see how that goes. If you pay attention to their body language and their behavior, you can tell if there's been a traumatic event that's happened to them since then. Do they still get along? Are they still in love? Did something happen with the family that they don't know about yet, but we can see it on the family? Things like that interest me. So that's why I want to take a look at this today. And if you're interested in that at all, you're going to know exactly what's happening by the time we get finished with this.
How does it feel to have this whole family back together now, even a month ago? I think you probably wouldn't have even imagined that you'd all be sitting here together on a couch.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. It's amazing. And you're right. You know, you go to bed and you're in a prison and you wake up the next day and President Trump has sent you home.
This looks normal, looks fairly good. You can tell he's still the alpha of the group because he's the first one to speak. Nobody's trying to speak over him, and they all look at him. So this looks normal so far.
So I said this morning in talking when we were all getting ready, I says, you know, we owe thanks to God. And I says, and God touched President Trump's heart. God led the people to advocate for us. And so I'm grateful because every night I would pray that God would return me home to my wife and my children. And he did that, so I'm grateful.
Again, everything here looks normal, looks as it should. He's illustrating with his hand on his hand. And when we illustrate, we're emphasizing specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. And nobody else has really popped up to try to say anything or butt in, anything like that. And again, everyone's just looking at him and letting him speak. That's normal up to this point.
Yes, it is surreal. It's hard to believe that just a month ago we were in prison. I mean, and how quickly things can turn around.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I hope people really realize that things can turn around. They can turn around quick. And we're proof of that.
Yes.
You can tell all of these people are used to being in front of the camera because they had a hit TV show. And when it's somebody's turn to talk, the others quieten up and pay attention to that person talking. And she's really demonstrative when it comes to her illustrators. That's why she's an attention getter as she speaks. Now we're going to see the volume of these people talking. It's going to go way up, especially when the daughter starts talking. She's what I call a loud talker. We'll see that in a couple of seconds. But everything looks as it should. Nobody looks like they're mad. Nobody looks like they're hiding anything so far. Everything looks good. I don't see any trauma on anybody from the past year or so. So things are looking as they should.
Well, Grayson, I want to ask you about this because I saw you and your sister about a month ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd love to know how you're feeling in this moment and also how it's been to have a sister like Savannah, how much she has meant to you over the past 2+ years, having to deal with so much in your family.
Well, Savannah and I have always kind of been attached at the hip, but, you know, I'm very proud of her and I'm happy that we don't have to hide our political views anymore and she's being outspoken and, you know, telling people what they need to hear.
And some of what they don't need to hear.
If you've never seen this family on TV, you'd know automatically this is the shy one. This guy doesn't illustrate much at all, and he's mostly adapting with his hands as he smiles, really big. And when you adapt, you're getting rid of that built-up stress and tension. It helps you kind of calm down, self-soothing. Any repetitive motion like that or behavior like that is self-soothing. So he's the shy one. And you can tell that he's really happy. That's a real smile. It's a Duchenne smile. So far, again, everything's looking good.
Honestly, Grayson, he's literally always said, I have 2 moms because we're 9 years apart. And so we've always been attached at the hip. And I say he's taught me more than any person in the world ever could the past 2.5 years. And he thought I saved him when in reality, like, he saved me. And just going through this together has been such a whirlwind. And the day that they got pardoned, he and I were fighting. It was the worst day ever. I just reached a point of like, I've done everything I can do. At this point, there's nothing more I can do. And then I got the call from, Margot text. She was like, hey, I'm going to call you from my work line. I was like, okay, what's going on? And then that's when we spoke to the president and it happened. So we were at an all-time low, and then it turned around quick.
This is really interesting because the father, Todd, he's doing his hands like this. He's adapting. He's rubbing his hands together. And the son is doing the same thing. If you watch them, they're almost in the same rhythm together as this is happening. The mother Julie isn't doing much at all. She's just listening and hanging there. So I don't know if it's Todd he can't wait to talk, or if it's just built up stress. I don't think the son wants to talk much at all. Maybe he's afraid she's going to ask him another question. But I was talking about getting loud. I don't think this woman has a hearing problem or anything. She's just a loud talker.
Well, Margot text. She was like, hey, I'm going to call you from my work line. I was like, okay, what's going on?
But you can hear her voice bouncing off the walls in there. That's how loud she is. Some people are just like that, and they don't realize it.
Jason, he's literally always said, I have two moms because we're 9 years apart.
On the other hand, maybe she does have some kind of hearing deficit. Maybe she's not even aware of yet. But it's really interesting to see the dynamic of a really loud sister and a really quiet brother.
He and I were fighting. It was the worst day ever. I just reached a point of like, I've done everything I can do.
Well, Savannah and I have always kind of been attached at the hip, but, I'm very proud of her. And
even though he's the younger brother by 9 years, like she said, that's always interesting to me. So I think it would be hard to talk over something like that if you're fairly shy and not really confident. If somebody with that volume's coming in at you, it'd be pretty tough. If you've got an older sister, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
He and I were fighting.
Julie, did you guys know that this was on the horizon? Tell me about how you each found out that this had happened.
I was upstairs in my room, and someone comes by and says, I just need to tell you, your name was just on CNN. I thought,
Clinton News Network.
Lord. I was like, for what? And they're like, I don't know. And I said, okay. So I go downstairs, and
her volume is jacked way up. So apparently it's a family thing. Maybe it's something they're just used to talking that loud. I don't know. What's interesting here is when she says, I don't know what.
What?
You see that one lip go up, and that lets us know there's contempt there. So she doesn't like the news station this thing was on. So maybe that's what it is. Her illustrators are good. We don't see any grief. We don't see any kind of movement in the brow that lets us know that she's had pain or feels anxiety or anxious or apprehensive about anything. That's probably due to Botox. This is going to be a tough one. Watch these people. None of their eyebrows move. The one that moves the most is the son. Man, and it's not very much at all. There's from here up, nothing moves. Watch this. It's crazy. There's a lot of Botox in that room.
For those of you who don't know, using the telephone is not an easy task in prison. So you have to get in line. I sat in line, went into the little room. I called Savannah. She didn't answer.
My phone at that point was going absolutely insane because the White House tweeted Trump knows best with the video. So my phone,
I called Gray. He didn't answer. I'm thinking, okay, if I leave this TV room, I have to go get in the back of the line and wait again. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try one more time. I called Savannah one more time.
Some people are really good at telling stories and some people aren't. Julie's really good at telling stories, and she does it to command attention when she's doing it. If you listen to her voice volume right out of the gate, bang, it's really loud when she starts talking.
For those of you who don't know, using the telephone is not an easy task in prison.
But other times where she wants to get your attention, have you come in closer, she gets a little bit quieter. Her illustrators are really big at sometimes, and then other times are really small. So that makes you engage with her, makes your brain go, what's going on here? Because you see a lot happening. Your brain sees a lot going on and goes, this interests me. What's going to happen next? Now, Savannah's body language is similar to that. It's not the same, but it's similar to that because most of her illustrators are low when she's talking about things, whereas Julie's are really high. Now, Todd's usually aren't huge, but they're about mid-level. They're right in here. So that all those things let us know there's confidence there. But when you have an extreme amount of confidence like Julie has, telling a story like that and telling it really loud, you don't have a problem doing that at all. And people listen to it. You can tell they're all listening to it, but she's telling a story that's exciting, and it's something that happened to all of them. That's why they're so excited and paying such close attention to what's happening. But she's a pretty good storyteller.
And she said, he did it. He signed it. And I just started busting out crying. And everyone was looking around. And then I just hung up. I was so nervous that I just hung up. It was the craziest thing. And everybody was just looking at me because, unfortunately, most of the news that you get in prison is bad news. You know, so they're like, are you okay? I'm like, I am. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. And so it was crazy. And then from there, it was just, it was unreal.
There are 10 eyebrows in this room, and not one of them moves, not even a little bit. Watch this again and pay attention to their eyebrows. Nothing's moving. I know it's because of Botox, and it's like, no big deal. That's a pretty big deal, though. I mean, that's pretty hardcore when nothing moves like that and everybody's got it. Maybe that's what gives this thing that weird sheen where you feel like something's not right, because you're seeing everything normal. You're seeing smiles and hands moving and torsos going back and forth as they get excited, but there's nothing going on up here. And this is the billboard for emotion. That's the first thing we see when we see somebody, even from a distance. We see that the eyebrows go up. We see the brow squinch together. We see the glabella come together. If they're angry, we can tell a whole lot going on, but there's not a lot of movement there. And I find myself checking those to see what's happening. Maybe it's because of what I do for a living, but subconsciously you do it too. You may not know it, but you're looking there too. And so it just kind of puts this odd feeling on it. And I'm sure if some people feel off-put by them or put off by them, however you want to say it, I'm sure that might be part of it, because they seem like nice people. This woman's a great storyteller, but that eyebrow thing, that whole forehead situation, the brow, just makes it feel weird.
Wow. What about you, Todd?
I was coming back from the library, and one of the guys stopped me. He goes,
and also when he says library,
well,
he makes it sound sophisticated, but it
well,
is
you know,
not a
as much of a
library.
library as you can have. And this guy stops me. He goes, man, I think you just got pardoned. And I said, yeah, okay. And I just kept right on walking. And so when I went into my dorm, one of the guys, the COs, he came by and he goes, are you good? And I said, as good as I can be. And he said, Todd, you just got pardoned. They sent me down here to make sure you're okay. And I said, well, they don't need to be worrying about me now. Hell, if I'm pardoned, I'm great.
So far, I'm not seeing anything that tells me either one of these people have suffered any kind of trauma while being in prison. They look like they still love each other. They look like they're still getting along. The family, I think, feels better that everybody's back together. But the way he's talking, I've been in a lot of prisons. I've never been in one like this, where you have a dorm and somebody just pops by and asks you how it's going. I don't know, man.
And so when I went into my dorm, one of the guys, the COs, he came by and he goes, are you good? And I said, as good as I can be. And he said, Todd, you just got pardoned. They sent me down here to make sure you're okay.
So I'm not sure how bad this prison was, how much of a real prison. And I think somewhere in here, or in one interview, he does say it wasn't that bad. You know, it was more like camp. But boy, it sure sounds like camp. But you talk to people who've been in real prison, they don't sound like that at all. When they come out, they don't look like that at all. And they're happy to be out, but they're not all, like there's no problem whatsoever, because they've got things to think about that happened back in prison. I don't think we're seeing any kind of any traces of trauma from prison on either one of these two.
So I went and called her, and as soon as she answered, she goes, it's signed. And I started crying and said, well, you did it. You did it.
At the same time, he's talking about and reliving the moment he learned he was getting out of prison. So he's pretty excited. And that's great. That's a big deal. What we don't see in here are those facial expressions that let us know he feels like he's escaping this horrible, horrible life that's back in prison, like something that terrible is happening. And those kind of expressions are a combination of the happy, smiling expressions, and then sadness or a little bit of grief. We don't see any grief in here on him at all. I'm sure he's leaving a bunch of friends in there that he made, but we don't see grief. I don't think there's any trauma that he's leaving behind over there or thinking about as he's talking about getting out, because I think what he's expressing is his excitement to see his family again, to be able to run around and do things he wants to do, but not the excitement from getting rid of whatever that traumatic experience that would have been in prison. Well, we don't see that happening here. So I don't think he's had any traumatic experiences in prison.
But, Savannah would see me every weekend or every other weekend. We talked every day, and she would give me the recap of what she was doing and who she was talking to and what she was going to do next. And I would always say, if it's God's will, if it's God's will. And there were times that she would be frustrated because it wasn't moving at the speed that she wanted it to be. And I would have to remind her that it's in God's time, not our time. And that's exactly how it worked out. It was in God's time.
This is his example of telling a story. Now I can see why Julie and Todd get along so well. She's more of the creative side and he's more of the analytical side. And how do we know that? Listen to the way he structures that story he's telling.
Savannah would see me every weekend or every other weekend. We talked every day, and she would give me the recap of what she was doing and who she was talking to and what she was going to do next. And I would always say, if it's God's will.
It's not like, okay, well, here's what happened. And then he starts telling it, right? He's just saying what happened between he and Savannah as it went back and forth. He doesn't add all these other things to it. When we listen to Julie's story.
For those of you who don't know, using the telephone is not an easy task in prison. So you have to get in line. I sat in line, went into the little room. I called Savannah. She didn't answer.
Boy, there's a lot going on in there. She makes a picture in your mind. That's really tough for a storyteller or for a non-storyteller. So that right there gives me the impression that they get along because he's almost the opposite of her when it comes to seeing the world. He's more analytical and she's more creative. So I'm not seeing any kind of trauma. I'm not seeing any kind of bad vibes between anybody. I'm not seeing any kind of anger, any kind of resentment, nothing in there. I think they're all just happy to be back together again. And there's no, like I said before, there's no signs of trauma that anybody's had in the prison anyway. So I don't think there's a problem there at all. I think the son is glad to see him and is glad they're going to be home. I know the daughter's glad to see him and glad because she's worked really hard to make that happen. And of course, Todd and Julie are happy as well. This looks pretty good. I mean, it looks, for somebody who's had a TV show for so long and they're like TV people and they're used to being on camera and used to everybody looking at them and paying attention, a lot of that is controlled. A lot of their behavior is controlled because they're used to people looking at them or the camera looking at them. So the other stuff is kind of hard to hide, though. There are things you can't hide. Like when you've had a horrific experience, you can hide a little bit from a lot of people, but there's always going to be somebody that can see that, see right through it. And I don't think anything bad happened to them in the last couple of years as far as, personally getting beat up or being threatened really bad or being afraid for months on a time or being put in solitary for a long time because that'll change you. I'm not seeing any of that. So I think they've come out probably just as healthy mentally as when they went in. So I know I'm not trying to be funny about that. I'm just saying I don't think it affected them much at all. But we'll see what happens on the TV show, I guess. The White House released a video of President Trump addressing the nation after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A lot of people think this might be AI. Well, me and you are going to take a look at this, and we're going to look at it from a body language and behavior perspective, and you're going to know exactly what's going on by the time we get finished.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah.
Right out of the gate, that's pretty good. No big glitches, nothing seems out of place. You still have that odd little feeling in the back of your head that goes, something's not right here. So let's do this. Let's take a look at another video that's similar to this one that happened within the same 5-6 hours. And we're going to look at his body language in that and compare it to his body language in this clip and see if there are any differences that give us a heads up as to what might be going on.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah.
As you can see, there's a huge difference here. What's the big difference we all see first is the color. The other one's really bright, the tones are really strong, and in the second one, not as strong, not as bright. Another thing let's pay attention to is the audio. That's really important when it comes to AI. In the first video, you'll hear that the voice is really tight. In other words, it's been compressed. That way, if it's really loud, it's the same volume if he talks really loud. If he talks really low, it's the same volume. That's what a compressor do. It compresses the sound together so it's all the same volume.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah.
Here's the second video.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
Notice in the second one how big the room sound is.
Bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
That's what they call that. You hear all that, what you'll think of as echo. It's actually the sound of him speaking bouncing off the walls. That's how you can tell how big the room is if you listen close enough.
Bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
When you hear records that have huge drum sounds, like from the old days, from like the 70s and 80s, that's how they did it. They put microphones in a big room and put them far away. You had some close up, on a snare, let's say, but then you had some up in the corners of the room or 5, 6, 7, 10 feet away. And by the time the sound got there, you could hear that whole room. And that's what's called a big room sound for drums. And in a nutshell, that's what we're hearing here is a big room sound.
Bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
But in the first video, we don't have that room sound.
Heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Innocent people. Utah. Innocent people. Utah. Innocent people. Utah. Innocent people. Utah.
And why is that? Because when AI treats audio, it takes it and compresses the squat out of it, and it brings out the mids so you can understand it and hear it better. And it has a specific tone to it. And this first video has that tone. And the second video doesn't. Listen to the difference again.
Innocent people. Utah. Innocent people. Utah.
As far as body language goes, let's check out how President Trump is locked down in the first video. He doesn't move much at all.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah.
Now in the second clip, check out how he moves around a lot. He's doing this, his head goes sideways, his shoulders come up and move around, he moves from side to side, and his hands aren't as locked down as they were in the first video.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
Having seen these two, I'm under the impression he's been asked to lock down for this video and not move much at all. Now let's keep in mind, this could be caused by an emotional state he's in because Charlie Kirk was his friend. So we could be looking at something from an emotional perspective here. But in the second one, let's watch that and watch again how much he moves.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
So does this mean anything? Not yet.
Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot.
There it is. Did you see it?
Charlie was a patriot. Charlie was a patriot. Charlie was a patriot. Charlie was a patriot.
There's so much happening in this 1 second clip. We're going to go through it frame by frame. Now, here's what I want you to pay attention to first. Watch his tie. Under his hands, behind him, on the bottom there near the table, you can see his tie. Okay? Watch his tie and his shirt and his right hand. Watch how those things swell and they get small again. They'll get big and get small. Pay attention to this now. Normal human hands don't do that. It's impossible. It's breaking all the laws of physics. Same thing with his tie. Things getting bigger and smaller. Now let's take a look at the environment. Let's take a look at what's going on outside that window. Okay, in the reflection of that window, you're going to be able to see the teleprompter because that's what we see. We've seen that with every president when you do this same shot. In the background behind him, you can see through the window in the reflection the teleprompter going up as they're reading this because he's reading this. And that's normal. They all do it. But watch that tree in the background, right up there in the back. When he moves, that thing moves too, and it hasn't moved very much at all from the beginning of this video. As good as it's gotten, AI hasn't quite figured out the hands yet. That's one of the first things we look for when we look for fake videos. Sometimes people have 10 fingers, sometimes they don't have any hands at all, sometimes they've got 2 hands where 1 hand should be. AI's getting good, but it's not quite there yet. Now let's take a look at the pinky on his left hand. Where'd that little shit ass go? It disappears and it reappears. It looks like it's been absorbed into his hand. So at one point, he's only got 3 fingers and a thumb.
Charlie was a patriot.
Outside of those things, nothing seems out of place here. Nothing happens odd with the mouth. Nothing happens really oddly with the eyes. Nothing's going on weird with the hair. Nothing looks out of place other than that.
Who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loves so much, the United States of America.
When I'm asked to look at someone's body language, the first thing I do is start looking for the things that are missing. And what's missing here? His regular, normal body language that we're used to seeing. We talked about this earlier, but he's still locked down. I think they've asked him to sit there as still as he possibly could because he's aware they're going to use AI to enhance this. So far, nothing tells me that the whole thing is made out of AI. That's been created from scratch, and they said, here's the script you use, here's the prompt you're going to use. None of that. I think this thing so far has just been enhanced by AI. So what I see missing from here are those body language cues and tells that we're used to seeing.
Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith.
When he says deep, deep faith, listen to how big the room is.
A man of deep, deep faith. Deep, deep faith.
It could be because his volume's getting louder, but AI usually grabs that and gets rid of most of the room.
Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith.
His left hand moves again in this one, but there are no changes there. There's nothing odd that sticks out.
And we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world.
That one looked good until the end. There's a tiny little glitch there. It's not a frame-by-frame film video thing. That shows treatment by AI. Watch this. From looking at the body language and behavior in this video and comparing it to the other body language and behavior in a video that's similar to this one, taken around the same time, there's a massive difference as to what's happening here. Now, I don't think, and I would put all my money on it, that this is completely AI generated. This has been enhanced by AI. They can do that now. It's not that big a deal to put something in it that makes somebody look better and make them look. Watch this. Let me show you how that works, okay? This has been enhanced by AI. See how odd that looks? Everything looks really smooth and and all that. I did a video called, we did the Psychopath Awards, and I did this on everybody in there so they'd have that weird look to give you a weird feeling about it. If you want to go see it, it's called the Psychopath Awards. It's on this channel. And everybody in there, I put this sheen of AI over them because in the software we use, I can do that. And it just looks weird like this. And if you don't see it, if you don't pay attention to it, then it goes right by you, but you still feel weird about it. That's that weird feeling you have when you see President Trump in this video, because something doesn't look right about it. You're not sure what it is because it's close, but it's not perfect. And it's this thing. Let me turn this off. There, back to normal. But I think this thing is enhanced. It's not totally AI generated. So if anybody has any questions about that, you can say, hey, no, it's just been enhanced. President Trump did an interview with Rob Finnerty, and Rob asked him, are you going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? Are you going to pardon P. Diddy Combs? And his answers weren't really spot on, but his body language tells us everything. Let's take a look.
Ghislaine Maxwell serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Is clemency on the table for her in exchange for testimony?
I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the case, but I know I have the right to do it. I have the right to give pardons. I've given pardons to people before, but nobody's even asked me to do it.
This sounds to me like a prepared answer because he goes right down this list. He says, I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the case. I have the right to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. Now, presidents give presidential pardons all the time. Every president does it. Sometimes we don't agree with it because it's friends of theirs or business partners or something like that. What I find interesting here is when he says, I don't know anything about the case, and watch his eyebrows go up. That's a request for approval. Greg Hartley coined that. And you see it, for example, when a little child is asking for a cookie, they'll go, can I have a cookie? And their eyebrows will go up. Or someone will say to you, you understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Their eyebrows will go up, requesting your approval for that question or understanding.
I don't know anything about.
Another thing that sticks out to me is we're not seeing any of the big illustrators President Trump usually uses. He'll do that pension thing. He'll go back, he'll straighten up real big, his arms will come out again, he does the squeeze box thing. None of that. He's doing his classic Trump thing where he sits there and he talks for a minute and eyebrows go up. He'll look away and look down, think for a second while he's talking, then look back and start talking again, delivering information. So that's normal. So he's not all excited about it. But again, the part where he says, I don't know anything about the case, I think he knows about the case.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Right.
Would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something. But
He laughs a little bit when he gives that answer. That's understandable because we don't even know what's going on with Diddy at this point.
He was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great.
As he describes his relationship with Diddy, he talks about how he was a nice guy, didn't know him well, and we see his shoulders go up a little bit. That shows lack of confidence. So I'm under the impression he didn't know him that well.
But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
And it's hard,
Then he starts talking about how it would be difficult to pardon him. That's understandable. Anybody bad-mouthing you, you wouldn't want to pardon them either.
Like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine.
But apparently they were in a lot of the same places at the same time. I don't mean they're at those parties he was having, but when you're public figures, you're going to be in the same places a lot.
And then you run for office and
when he talks about Diddy bad-mouthing him when he was running for office, he gets pretty still and he looks Finnerty right in the eyes.
And then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So
that lets us know he wants him to know exactly how he feels about that. Then he starts talking about how it would be difficult to pardon him because he's been bad-mouthing him.
But it makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
Everybody would feel that way because when somebody's bad-mouthing you, you don't want to do anything to help them.
But more likely a no for Combs,
I would say so.
Okay.
So far, it's not sure about Ghislaine and no for Diddy. Now let's find out what President Trump thinks about pardoning George Santos, our old pal.
And what about George Santos?
Boy.
He just went away, 7 years.
He was, he lied like hell, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him.
President Trump laughs about this because we all know what a big liar George Santos is. And even though George Santos was talking good about him, President Trump feels bad about talking bad about him. But I don't think he's going to let him go. Let's keep going.
But he was 100% for Trump. But I didn't, I might have met him, maybe not, I don't know. But he was a congressman and his vote was solid. It sounds like a lot. He got in. You could blame the other side for not checking him out.
Yeah.
He didn't do all those things that he said.
Local news missed it. Everybody missed it.
Well, you could say the media missed it. Everybody missed it. They found out about this stuff after the election was won.
He pops up a little bit when he talks about how the media missed it.
Well, you could say the media missed it. Everybody missed it.
And obviously everybody else did too. But he feels like they should have checked into him more with all this stuff he was saying.
You could blame the other side for not checking him out.
Yeah.
He didn't do all those things that he said. So nobody's talked to me about it. So they really, they haven't talked to me about the two. They have talked to me about Sean, but they haven't talked to me about the two. But again, with him, I have the right to do it. Nobody's asked me, but it's interesting.
So nobody's talked to him about a pardon for George Santos, but they have apparently for Diddy.
They have talked to me about Sean, but they haven't talked to me about the two.
So let's take a closer look at his body language and see what that tells us. He's a little bit more animated here. We're still not seeing him use his hands and his arms as illustrators. When he starts using those, that's when we know he's committed about something. That's when we know he's trying to get a point across. That's when he uses that little thing there, the pinch. When he does that, he's being very specific. We don't see any of that here. But we're still seeing Trump's classic body language. He's got his shoulders together. He's leaned forward a little bit. A lot of eye contact. Probably got his hands in his lap. His voice tone and volume are low and soft.
So nobody's talked to me about it. So they really, they
He's
haven't
not
talked to
talking
me
very
about the
fast.
two.
His cadence is fairly slow. This sounds to me like a soft no for George Santos.
7 years?
7 years. He just went away.
Now, this is something we all want to know about, the Epstein files. And who knows more about that than anybody else? Ghislaine Maxwell. And apparently she sat down for 9 hours and talked all about that. Are we going to be able to hear it? Is it on audio? Is it video? Lord, I hope it's video.
Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. I'm just wondering when the American people get to hear what she said during that interview.
Well, I don't know because I haven't spoken about it.
That's a little bit odd. I don't know because I haven't spoken about it.
Well, I don't know because I haven't spoken about it.
I think he does know. I think he knows what's in there.
But he's a very talented guy, Todd Blanche, and a very straight shooter.
Yeah.
And I think he probably wanted to know, just to get a feeling of it, because we'd like to release everything, but we don't want people to get hurt that shouldn't be hurt.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how he wants to release this stuff, but he doesn't want to hurt people. And by that, he means some people hung out with the guy and also Ghislaine, and they weren't mean people. They weren't bad people. They just happened to be in these social situations. That happens. But I think he knows what's in there. Wouldn't you want to know? If you could find out, I know I would. So if you're the president and you think your name might be in there anyway, you're going to look and you're going to ask.
And I would assume that was why he was there. I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt.
So he's talking about how great this guy is that did the interview, but he doesn't get right down to the details of it. It may be a situation where he can't talk about it. Maybe one of those situations where you just can't do it. But I'm not seeing anything that shows deception there. I am hearing a little something that bothers me. I haven't spoken about it.
When the American people get to hear what she said during that interview.
Well, I don't know because I haven't spoken about it.
That to me looks and sounds like deception.
Well, I don't know because I haven't spoken about it.
I do believe him when he says he wants everything released. I do believe him when he says he wants everybody to know what's happening in there. And I do believe when he says he didn't want the wrong people to get hurt. But he knows some people will get hurt when he comes out.
I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt.
All right, so as far as the pardons go, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think he's going to let Diddy go. That's obvious because he said he wasn't. I don't think he's going to let Ghislaine go either. And I don't think he's going to let Santos out. I don't think he's going to pardon any of them. He did kind of think about it when he was talking about Santos, but I think that's because the guy was being so nice to him and talking so good about him. But I think when he gets down to the part about right and wrong, I don't think he'll let him go. That's just what I think, but I want to know what you think. Let's take a poll down there. I'll put a poll down on the post section of this for this channel. And the posting thing, go over there and I'll have a little poll. You tell me what you think. Let's all vote and see if you think he's going to let Diddy go, if you think he's going to let Ghislaine go, if you think he's going to let Santos go. Yeah, that's what we'll do. All right, if you have any questions about body language, just email me, bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.